Hello and welcome to The Lead Out, Cycling Weekly's monthly racing show, giving you all the insight and debate for the month ahead. And I'm joined today by Cycling Weekly editor Simon Richardson and former pro rider and founder of Le Col, Janto Barker. It doesn't seem like yesterday that your favourite rider, Alejandro Valverde, was pulling on the rainbow jersey in Innsbruck. Obviously it's been an eventful off-season as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've only just taken down the Christmas decorations, finished some mince pies, and we're ready to look ahead to the race season. So a few new teams, lots of new jerseys. We always like to see the new kit coming out. Always lots of comments on social media about what people think about the new kits.
Yes, indeed. So usually this show would usually show you the monthly highlights, but obviously with it being early January, we don't have any highlights to show you, but we will talk about some of the biggest stories this off-season. So I think the only place we can start is Team Sky and their announcement that they will not be continuing after this season under their current format. I mean, it's pretty big news, to say the least, isn't it, Janto?
Yeah, I do. I think it's very big news, but at the same time, I think probably of any team that's going to lose their sponsor, they should be ones to be able to find a new place. Even with all the money in the world, it's still hard to find the ingredients to put together a team that can deliver such reliable results of the highest standard. So if I was a sponsor and I had the money, I would put it down, I'd back them. You know, I think what they've done, although they've had a lot of flack through the process, they have achieved a phenomenal amount, you know, and that doesn't happen by accident.
I think they'll have people knocking down their door to have those conversations. You know, not everyone will have the money to give to them, or, you know, it might not come off, but I think they'll have a lot of people showing a lot of interest from around the world. I think it was written in one of the daily papers, I think there'll be less of a British team. I wouldn't be surprised if it was an international sponsor coming in.
With Brexit as well, obviously playing a potential
that makes
part.
it difficult for British companies to stump up money at this point. I think the key for me is the timing of it. If they need to have something in place by the Tour de France, otherwise their agents will have to start talking to other teams, won't they? The big name riders, that they can't leave it later than the Tour to start re-signing or signing new contracts for the following year.
I think that is interesting, but if I look at the most important platform of Sky's success, I think it's their process. I think it is the way Dave Brailsford and you know, his whole team run that system, because I think there are other ways to get the right riders in the right places to deliver the roles that need to be done. So you've got the guy, you know, with 5Ks to go, 4Ks to go, 3Ks to go, all that kind of thing, and obviously the stages in between. I could see quite a reshaped team in terms of riders still deliver. Actually, you need the couple that you're obviously going to rely on to deliver the result, but I think they could do that with a different bunch.
Oh, definitely. And you mentioned obviously the Tour de France potential deadline. The talk of this year's Tour de France was BMC's future, which was up in the air until I think it was the first rest day. It was announced that they were going to be rebirthed as CCC, which was another big talking point this off-season. Obviously it's very late in the day, so they did lose quite a few riders, but they have kept Greg Van Avermaet as their main rider. I mean, how do you see their chances this season still at the World Tour level?
I think that's going to be an interesting one, and we won't know until we see it, really. I think when two teams merge, I think there's, you know, you've got the people at BMC, which is a very well-funded team, performing at a very high level, and you've got the CCC team as well that weren't performing at such a high level, but they've, you know, it's still their team, it's still in their name, so they will feel as if it's still their team, although perhaps the talent has come in from elsewhere. So how those two merge will be fascinating.
Much less often than you would believe that there is well organised and well structured plan for every individual to know their place in a team, because you kind of need to leave a little bit of space for some young guys to come through and compete and show that they're getting better and they've improved and they can move up the system or up the hierarchy, let's say. But in other ways, you need everyone kind of to stay where they are and do their job. Otherwise, there's infighting that starts to detract from the results that the team can get. So when you merge a team, you've got to line everyone's expectations up, and if you don't do it well and there's not a really kind of focused attention on each person's objective for the year and how much opportunity they're going to be given for those results, then that's when the discord starts to creep in, and that can really start to affect not just mentality but, you know, actual tactics on the day.
Yeah, and you mentioned his name briefly earlier. One of the riders BMC weren't able to sign, Richie Porte. He's moved on to Trek Segafredo. Obviously, he's now going to have leadership duties there. How do we see his? I'm assuming Tour de France will be his main aim.
See if he can get through a 3-week Grand Tour. He's often talked up as a Grand Tour rider, but he's never quite proved it over 3 weeks. But
he's an exciting rider. I'm a big fan of Richie Porte, and I do think he's lacking something for 3 weeks, though. I mean, it's probably obvious to see when you look at the stats. He's amazing at a week, and he's got a whole all-round ability. He can time trial, and he's very small and light, and he's got amazing power to weight, so he climbs well. But there's something about Grand Tours where the probability, if you don't have your head straight, and I think about this from a rider's point of view. I'm still learning about cycling at 38, and I've been trying to learn as much as I can, as fast as I can, all the way through my career for virtually 20 years. And you need to retain that desire to keep learning. And Grand Tours are like the pinnacle of when you've kind of learnt it all. You don't get, like I said earlier, you don't get guarantees, but you do get better probabilities. And I would definitely be looking for Richie, who has got the talent in pure ability to deliver a fantastic result. If not a podium, then, if not a win, then a podium.
So yeah, I mean, staying with Trek Segafredo, obviously another big announcement that came at the Tour de France was their formation of a women's team, and one of their, probably their biggest rider is Lizzie Deignan, going to be returning back to the pro scene from having a baby. And
I can't wait to come back. I think we've really missed her last year. I think it's fantastic to see her come back. And it's great that a team that big put their faith in someone who's just had their first child, really. I mean, coming from the other side of parenthood, we know how tough it is. So for her to come back and to start riding again at that level, really, really interested to see what she does. And of course, the most exciting thing is the Yorkshire Worlds for her.
And finally, last big talking point of the year. I mean, there wasn't a huge huge winter, I should say, of transfers, but a couple of sprinters moved around. One more surprising than the other. Caleb Ewan moving to Lotto Soudal wasn't, seeing as he missed out on Tour de France selection last year. But Fernando Gaviria obviously took the yellow jersey on stage one. Quick step, you would imagine, one of the wealthiest teams in the pro peloton, but weren't able to keep hold of him as they had sponsorship issues as well. And he's gone to UAE Team Emirates, which is probably not what we thought.
I think money talks on that one, don't you? I mean, who can blame him? At that age, I'm sure that was a big contract for him going there. He will have lost none of his ability. One of the most talented riders I've ever seen on the track, and then to transferred to the road with ease.
It depends for Gaviria if he's part of his negotiation is that he's getting lead out guys to help come along, and maybe not even the guys that are there already, but that they'll buy them in. That would be something I'd be quite focused on if I was him. But he's so talented, like I said, he's going to win them anyway. He often does it fresh. That's the other thing. So he does do it when he takes the yellow jersey or the pink jersey or whatever, and it just suddenly becomes a bit more prominent, those wins.
Yeah. Moving on to the first race of this season is Tour Down Under. It's not the most important race of the year, of course, but it's exciting to obviously wake up to a bit of racing in the morning, which is always a bit unique. It's a bit like the Tour of California. It's nice to have a bit of racing out of the normal European slot.
It's nice to have a bit of sunshine, I think. Just look at some nice sunny bike racing pictures. It just cheers me up straight away.
Hope you're there.
Makes me feel jealous.
But obviously it's a very important race. I mean, like for the sprinters in particular, it's always been seen as like a sprinter's paradise with everyone usually starting off their season with a win. And there's a few big names there this year. Peter Sagan, obviously, Caleb Ewan, Ilya Viviani.
I think it's more important for someone like Caleb Ewan, who's changed teams, make sure he establishes himself as a real good signing, get the confidence of the team, get the confidence of the staff, and just prove to himself. Because he did have a little bit of a drop in the end of last season when he wasn't getting selected. It got to his head a little bit, and he got off at Ride London after being in the breakaway. He just got off, and it was a bit like, that's quite uncharacteristic. Because he's a really, really nice guy. I've interviewed him plenty of times, and he's incredibly talented. But that was someone who wasn't quite clear on what they need to be doing and where they're going.
Obviously, an Australian team was a safe home for him. He could have stayed there for the rest of his career. Moving shows he's got big ambitions, and he's not happy just to have a safe place in an Aussie team. He wants to move around and win bike races. The challenge for him, I think, is yes, he needs to win early, but he doesn't want to fall into that trap that's happened to Aussie riders in the past. You go home, have a fantastic or their summer, our winter of training. You're absolutely flying for Tour Down Under, and your form deserts you halfway up the Col d'Air at the end of Paris-Nice, and that's it for your season. So he's got to somehow manage that show himself at Tour Down Under, but not sort of end his season in
burn
March.
his matches, I mean, and as I mentioned, Peter Sagan, he's not going to be in the World Championship jersey
No.
for the first time in
3 years.
3 years,
Yeah.
but he will be in the Slovakian jersey.
Yeah, Slovak Champs jersey, and it's the first. Well, we still haven't seen him in his team kit since Tour de Suisse 2011, which is incredible. But good to see him racing nice and early, because I think he's gone to Argentina the last couple of seasons, start there. So back in Tour Down Under, that's where I first saw him race for Liquigas in, I think, when he was about 21 years old, and he was challenging Valverde back then in the sprints.
And Viviani, obviously, kind of a bit under the radar. He's not seen as the main sprinter, but obviously last season he was pretty much unbeatable wherever the hell he was. I mean,
so talented, you know, and a very calm rider, actually. So obviously he gets in the fight, in the kind of mix of the sprint finale. He's obviously got all the intensity and drive to win, but actually when you interview him again, he's a calm, considered, calculated rider. He knows what he's doing, he knows how good he is, and I don't think they'll be any different to what we see from him again this year. He's going to be challenging and winning from the off.
yeah, those are the big three sprinters. We actually ran a Twitter poll asking our readers who they thought would come out on top, and it was actually surprisingly closer than I thought it was going to be. 41% Peter Sagan, 28% Caleb Ewan, and 31% Elia Viviani, which it kind of shows the sprinting scene at the moment is very open. But
I think I'd go Ewan.
I was just going to say the same.
For more wins than the others.
Yeah.
But not to dominate, but I think he'll get more.
I think Ewan and Viviani, Sagan is more an all-round rider. You know, he's doing it on so much more than just sprinting, whereas Viviani is a pure sprinter, and Ewan as well. Obviously, with his aero position, it's just amazing how fast he can go. But I expect to see a good battle on a number of those stages.
Exactly. It's not just the sprinters heading down under to fight for stage wins. Obviously, there's a GC battle as well. The favourite would have to be Richie Porte, new team, and he does love this race. I mean, I was doing a bit of research earlier this week, and incredibly, he's won the last 5 times up Wollonga Hill from 2014 to 2018, which is just, I'm trying to think of another rider in another race that's been that dominant. I mean, Valverde won.
Probably Sean Kelly back in Paris-Nice, isn't it? Back
It's
in
like,
the 80s.
but just like one stage of a race, like up one climb, it's just kind of, it's incredible. And obviously with the new team, we spoke about him, but
Has he got the Strava segment up there?
I don't know.
I have to check.
I don't know.
Most importantly,
That is the most important thing. But I mean, yeah, that's where the race will come down to.
The last stage finishes at the top of Wollonga Hill, so you expect the winner of the race overall to be in the top 3 up over the top of that. So you'd put your money on him.
For the other contenders, probably going to be challenging Richie Porte. We've got Michael Woods, obviously fresh off the Worlds, so close to getting the rainbow jersey, which would have been incredible for him. We've got last year's winner, Darryl Impey, who would be thereabouts. Rowan Dennis, another home rider. Obviously now he won't be wearing his World TT jersey as there's not a time trial in the race. And Wout Powers, which, I mean, we saw at the Tour of Britain how he can perform on a short stage race, and obviously he won up a Windlatter as well, so which similar kind of parcours to
classy, well, very intelligent as well. The way he won at Windlatter was timed absolutely perfectly, and also took into consideration all the tactics and all the other riders in the mix and when to go and when not to go. With the way they described of Bob Jungels' lead out was just too hard, and he knew that they couldn't sustain that. That's someone who's ridden to power and seen numbers and knows and has confidence in making a big decision to let the wheel go now, because it's going to come back in 2K's time, and then he's just a bit more smooth. So I'll be interested to see how he's going, because he's also had his off days when you see him actually get dropped and you think, that's a bit unusual, you know, he's better than that, but he's clearly being strategic, or he's just not in a great place. But also Michael Woods, I think, like you say, the Worlds wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, really interesting rider. I mean, I remember when he came into the pro scene as a runner, we did a feature on him because he was a top 800 metre runner, I think, and came into the pro scene with no real experience of riding in a peloton, and had these phenomenal figures physiologically, but didn't really make it count, and that shows how tough it is to. You know, it's not just about your physiology. You've got to ride in a bunch.
So after the Tour Down Under, obviously we move into the main bulk of the season itself, and one of the main highlights will be the cobbled classics, Paris-Roubaix, Tour of Flanders, 2 of the biggest races of the year alone. We've made some predictions which do not run to the bookmakers and put your mortgage on these, because we hold no responsibility. But I mean, who have you guys picked for Tour of Flanders first of all?
I picked Sagan. He's done it before. He can do it in so many different ways, and he's just such a talented rider. He loves that race. He clearly will be massively motivated.
Yeah, and then moving on to Paris-Roubaix. Peter Sagan won in his first cobblestone trophy last year. Who have you got, Simon?
I went for Gianni Moscon this year, which is a bit of a gamble, I'll say. I was trying to be clever. Massive talent, and he's shown it over and over again in one-day races. Has some probably self-control issues there that he needs to rein in, but obviously he's if he uses his legs, he can. I think it's probably his year to land a big one.
And Jante, you've gone for an interesting outsider as well, Jasper Stuyven, who probably shouldn't be an outsider, because last year he finished in the top 10 of 3 monuments, and the only other person to do that was Peter Sagan. So he's in very good company, but maybe just needs to make that leap.
I remember racing against him and being in the breakaway, and he just rode away from the breakaway, and then we got caught from the peloton, and he put time into the peloton. He's totally capable of doing what he's doing. He's also getting up there in Milan-San Remo. He can do sprints. He's a very calm, he's quite young. He's still only 25, I think, maybe 26. And incredibly talented. Clearly shown that he's got the consistency. He just needs a little bit more strength, a bit more experience, and he can finish it off.
Moving on to the Grand Tours, starting off with the Giro d'Italia. Obviously last year, Chris Froome produced a stunning solo effort to basically take the race by the scruff of the neck, and Simon Yates was basically flushed out the back of the peloton, and that was basically the race in a nutshell. But obviously he had so much before as well with Simon Yates, it bleeding in pink, winning multiple stages. And
it's the race of the season for me, I think. In terms of, I obviously enjoyed the Tour and a British winner there, but in terms of the actual bike racing, the Giro is where it was at. It often is. It was fantastic all the way through.
One of the best races in my living memory.
Yeah.
And then this year as well, I mean, it's loaded. It's probably more loaded than the Tour. You've got obviously Yates going back, you've got Dumoulin going back, you've got Valverde, you've got Bernal. I mean, who've we gone for this year? I mean, I have gone for Primoz Roglic.
I went Nibali.
Yeah.
I think Nibali needs to get one more Grand Tour win under his belt. I think he'll want to, and I think he'll probably realise he can't take on Team Sky with his backup. As good as Froome's win was this year, if you look at the top 10 of the Giro, it wasn't packed with really big name GC riders, whereas the Tour was. But this year, it's already shaping up to be a great battle with all those riders. And
Jante, you've gone for Mr. Dumoulin.
Yeah.
That's the second last year.
Yeah, and he's done it before. Very talented, all-rounder, incredibly professional rider. A real favourite of mine as well, so yeah, thought I'd go for him.
Sounds a wise pick. So, moving on to potentially the biggest race of the year. Of course, it's the Tour de France. And we actually have a short interview with Chris Froome coming up, a 4-time winner of the race.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think I'm certainly getting to the point in my career now where I'm starting to think about what kind of a legacy I want to leave behind, and to obviously target the Tour de France. And if I am able to win it for a fifth time and join that very elite group of bike riders who, I mean, only 4 people have ever done that. So to join that, to be the 5th would just be incredible. And it would be something pretty special in terms of the history of the Tour de France.
Interesting to hear that from Chris Froome. Rode the Giro and the Tour last year, but is fully focused on winning the Tour this year, and spoke about legacy. I mean, where do you see Froome coming this year?
Well, he's obviously all out for the Tour de France, as he has been in the past. And it's going to be hard to see anyone beating him. I wonder if that's why a lot of riders are already going for the Giro, because they'll see that focus, they'll see the team around him and think, we'll win the Giro this year.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. If you can reduce your competition by vibing everyone
stage,
out
yeah.
at this stage when they all go for the Giro instead, and we just talked about how competitive the Giro was. So I picked Chris Froome for the favourite to win the Tour, because I think he's so predictable, he's so reliable, and he's proven it already 4 times that he is his generation's best Grand Tour winner, and he is an incredible athlete all round, and he shows it consistently again and again and again. It's a very special mix, and he's got it all, so I think he can do it again.
It may be a long way away, end of September, but it's a very special World Championships, and we can't do a season preview without talking about the Worlds returning to the UK and Yorkshire. We've actually got a very short interview with Geraint Thomas talking about how he wants to be there later on this year.
Yeah, I think looking at the course for the Worlds in Yorkshire, I think the TT will probably be my best chance of getting something out of it. So I think it'll be a good goal to have for the end of the year. I certainly want to be there because obviously the support in the UK and Yorkshire especially is just unbelievable at the moment. So yeah, I think they're going to be a massive Worlds, and I really want to be a part of that. So I think the TT would be a nice sort of individual target, and then just to be part of that road team then, you know, with Cavan, Swifty or whoever's sort of there in the final, yeah, to really help them.
Geraint Thomas there talking about the Worlds in Yorkshire later on this year. He's probably going to be one of the favourites for the time trial if he rides it. But who else have we got for the main road race? What's your prediction, guys?
I think it's a tough one because we don't really know what the circuit, you know, people are talking about sprinters going there, but the Worlds is often just a bit too hard for an out-and-out sprinter, which is, you know, why it's become Peter Sagan's de facto race.
Yeah, and the women's race, obviously, we've already spoke about Lizzie Deignan coming back, home roads, but who have we all gone for in our predictions?
Just a Dutch rider.
I went for Lizzie. I think it'll be the perfect way for her to structure her whole season about coming back and really taking it with both hands and delivering a result and getting back to somewhere that she's used to performing.
We now move on to our 30-second effort, where each month we'll get our presenters to debate the hot topic of the month, and unsurprisingly you'll have 30 seconds to debate each side. So this month's topic is who should lead Team Sky's Tour de France challenge. Janto is going to defend Chris Froome, and Simon is going to defend Geraint Thomas's. So yeah, let me get 30 seconds on the clock. You nervous, Janto?
I'll manage.
Yeah, you're okay, confident? Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so I'll count you in. 3, 2, 1.
I'll start by Chris Froome is the best Grand Tour rider of his generation. Simple. He's proven it already, and just because he didn't win last year's Tour doesn't mean that that's gone away. Geraint Thomas is an exceptional rider, very talented, but has just not got the same track record that if I was going to be the director sportif, would be picking. So Chris Froome should definitely be the Grand Tour leader, and I would say that they're very lucky in that actually if it came down to it, they can pick on the day.
2,
Finished
1.
early.
And there is the horn. There's the horn.
I like to be on time.
There we go. So yeah, pretty strong start. And Simon, what is your reply with Geraint Thomas? Away you go.
Well, I think Geraint deserves it as reigning Tour de France champion. I think they need to back him. I could be persuaded that he could have joint leadership status with Froome, but he should have leadership status, and that means waiting for him if there's a puncher in a team time trial. He's proven he can win it. He doesn't need to prove it again. And I think his ambition to go there is very bold because he'll know that, you know, Chris is going for his 5th as well. But he really wants to become only the 10th rider to successfully defend their first Tour de France win. How long have I got? That's done.
There we go. Right on the money.
It's not long actually, is it? 30 seconds.
2 strong arguments there. We actually asked our Twitter followers earlier in the week who would they pick to lead Team Sky later on this year, and once again it was actually quite close. So 35% went with Geraint Thomas, 43% went with Chris Froome, and 22% said they would split duties between them, which is interesting. I mean, let us know in the comments who would you pick later on this year and whose argument was the best as well. We'll be back next month to see them defend another topic. As we move to the end of our season preview, we move on to the final call. Any other business that you guys want to share with us?
I think one thing we perhaps haven't spoken about is the new young riders into the pro peloton and who we're looking forward to see riding. 2 new British riders joining the World Tour Pro ranks, Harry Tanfield and Stevie Williams, joining Katusha and Bahrain Merida, respectively.
And both come through the slightly non-standard trajectory up into World Tour. Stevie Williams running for was it under 23 team? I think it
Yes,
was. Yeah,
yeah.
did a
And
really good
SCG,
season.
yeah.
Absolutely fantastic year that he had last year, winning some really great races, and Harry Tanfield, and equally, emphatic style, winning that stage of Yorkshire.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I mean, from Canyon Iceberg up to Katusha, that's a hell of a jump. It's great to see someone making that jump
Yeah,
from a
good.
British team up to World Tour.
good show it's possible.
Thank you guys for that.
Cool.
That was
Thank you.
top stuff. I hope the viewers agree. Let us know in the comments below what you're looking forward to most this season and your Tour Down Under predictions. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Cycling Weekly. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next month.